Alright, is it working now? Alright, guys, it wouldn't let me encode video a second ago here. But it looks like I got it all sorted out. Alright, so we are back with a new Tucker, new Tucker episode about Ron Paul's predictions. Now, decide what I feel about libertarians in general. I actually kind of like Ron Paul. He's kind of like a nice old guy. So, let's see where he goes.
Dawn on a lot of people, even people who are not paying attention, say 6 months ago, that the war in Ukraine is a big deal. It's not what they told us it was.
Right off the bat, we're getting into Ukraine. This is awesome. This just dropped like 11 minutes ago. So what does Ron Paul predict about Ukraine, dog?
It's not good for Ukraine and the people who live in that sad country, and it's not good for the United States, or for that matter, for the West. In fact, it's likely to be, in retrospect, a turning point in the history of the West, and not for the better.
What? Bro, what? The fuck? What is he talking about? What disaster? I mean, what Russia's doing is a disaster. Yeah, like it's a turning point. Oh my god, that was just a word vomit, like right off the bat, the first 23 seconds. What the fuck is he talking about? Yeah, yeah, the Ukraine situation, fucking sucks. Turning point for the West. What are you talking about? Like, Ukraine, the tiny little country of Ukraine that barely has a military, has been, what has it been, like a year now? Almost 2 years? Just been, like, devastating the Russian Imperial Army? Like, how does that make the West look bad, homie? That does the opposite. What the fuck are you talking about?
Who could have seen this coming? Who could have known, say, 10 years ago that actually U.S. activity in Ukraine was not an effort to bring freedom to the...
What? Oh, no, what the fuck? 10 years ago? Okay, let's go, bro.
Ukrainians, but was actually a massive intel operation designed to draw the United States into war with Russia for reasons.
By the way, this is awesome because Tucker has gone like full comrade Tucker, right? Like he's simping for Russia so hard lately. It's awesome. It's kind of embarrassing. Like, I wish Fox News or like right-wingers did this shit when I was growing up, because then I wouldn't have been shit on for sounding Eastern European. But like, that's so awesome. He's just like he's really stepping up for the fucking motherland. Why, bro? Why are you doing this? No, you don't have to do this. Like, Republicans and right-wingers still don't like Russia. Like, for the vast majority, you don't have to do this, homie. What the fuck? Oh, God.
Who could have seen that? Well, actually, one person did see that.
Yeah, please let us know.
That person was Ron Paul. But don't take our word for it. Here he is in 2014.
He about to clip Ron Paul way the fuck out of context.
I speak more from the perspective of the United States taxpayers, and it doesn't serve our interests. We've already spent $5 billion over the last 10 years trying to pick and choose the leadership of Ukraine, and then we participated in the overthrow of the Yanukovych government, and this is when this recent stuff really stirred up.
That's kind of... It's kind of a weird thing to say. Participated in the overthrow of the Yanukovych government. The Ukrainians did not like Yanukovych. Like, there was legitimate protests, and we supported, like, the protesters. But, like, the vast majority of people there really did not want Yanukovych because he was, like, super pro-Russia, and he was, like, shutting down trade deals with the West that would have benefited the country. So he was, like, yeah. I mean, if you get elected and then you start, like, consolidating authoritarian power and, like, start fucking over your country, people aren't going to be happy about that. And in Ukraine, they were very unhappy with that because historically, famously, Ukraine does not like to be considered Russian and does not like to be associated with Russia for a vast majority of a wide variety of reasons, right? Like, there's a lot of reasons why Ukrainians do not consider themselves Russian, all right? And Yanukovych was, like, super pro-Russian. So, and just, like, out the gate, he started pissing off his country. So, Yeah, I mean, we did support them, but like that's like saying that like if we supported the partisans in France against Hitler in World War II, it's like, well, we were supporting the overthrow of Nazi occupation of France. It's like, that's not a bad thing, homie. That's... Ooh, let's get you over here. Let's see. Whoa, gotta fix that. I see you can't see me that well. That's a good thing, okay? We're happy about that. Okay, let's move on.
But we've been involved too much, and I take a non-interventionist foreign policy position. It's not our business. It doesn't serve anybody's interest. It's part of the same thing that led us into the disaster in the Middle East. A lot of people...
Yeah, Ron Paul, like I said, I kind of do like him. He is like kind of an isolationist, and he is a libertarian. And he actually legitimately believes in libertarianism. He's not just saying he's a libertarian and is actually a fascist, like a large portion of people that claim to be libertarians. He just believes bad to worse ideas. Like, some of his ideas are good, like we shouldn't be doing war. We shouldn't be like funding massive war against crime. What's that called? Drug war. We shouldn't be really funding that. That's like not useful. So like, he has some good ideas and he has some bad ideas. For the most part, I disagree with him because I don't agree with the libertarian worldview. However, he's a genuine person, so it's awesome that Ron Paul is going to take him out of context here and make it look like Ron Paul is super pro-Russia, which he is not.
Die, and a lot of money is spent, and we're still suffering the consequences of the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and there's the threat of the war in Syria. We don't need another threat. The American taxpayers don't want it, and our government thinks they can get away with, well, I know the people don't want a war yet, but we're going to play games and we're going to threaten Russia and we're going to put on sanctions. And they fail to recognize that we have $500 billion of investments in Russia. Russia has $450 billion invested in the West, and all we're doing is trying...
That's actually a good thing from a liberal and libertarian perspective. By the way, being invested in people that have been historically your enemies is converting them with business. That's actually how capitalists... That's like the positive capitalist worldview, is like you beat your enemies by doing business with them. That's a good thing. Like, he's from the perspective of capitalism, it's a good thing to try and, instead of shooting each other, do business with each other. So that's not a bad perspective to have.
Trying to stir up more trouble makes no sense whatsoever. So it makes a lot of sense for us to mind our own business and let somebody over there solve their own problem.
Be honest. Be honest. Were you paying close attention to Ukraine in
Tucker.
2014? We weren't. Most people weren't. And as a result, this country got dragged, without even knowing it, into one of the pivotal conflicts.
By the way, the billions of dollars that we're giving Ukraine in aid is like old military tech and like shit that is going out of commission that we're decommissioning anyway. Like, we're not actually giving them American taxpayer dollars, like billions of them. That's not happening. It's not like we're sending, like, drop shipping, like when I say drop shipping, I don't mean the modern day drop shipping. I mean like literally just getting like a cargo ship, getting like a cargo ship. A cargo plane, and just dropping boxes of cash on Ukraine. That's not happening. We're giving them like old shit that we don't use anymore and that we don't need anymore, and it's helping them just like body Russia. Okay, so it doesn't actually cost the U.S. taxpayer that much. Obviously, they are doing some stuff like medical aid and stuff where they can't just use gauze bandages from like 1990 and give them that shit. So yeah, so we're giving them some money in terms of buying and producing medical and food supplies and stuff, right? So that's all well and good. Like, nobody's against humanitarian aid, right? I mean, if you are, shame on you. But like, that's not what we're doing. Like 90% of the spending, the total value of what we're giving Ukraine is like military tech and like military equipment that we don't use anymore. That's just sitting in warehouses. Okay, I guess you could say that the cost of transporting it over the ocean, that costs some money, but like, it's mostly just the value of like our old tanks and planes and shit. Okay.
History. to our grave disadvantage. The question is, how did Ron Paul, former congressman from Texas, how did he get that right? How did he know that? Why did he know to pay attention to Ukraine? And not just Ukraine, to monetary policy, to the state of our economy, to the state of our country, to the state of the West. How did he know before the rest of us knew? Maybe because his principles haven't changed in about 60 years. So we thought it would be a good idea.
Yeah, actually, Ron Paul's principles haven't changed in a long time. He's a pretty genuine dude. He's not like a fascist like Tucker, pretending to be a libertarian. However, Tucker is gonna spin this. Oh, gosh. Man, I have been... I was sick 2 months ago. And I can't get this over this damn cough. Like, I don't have anything. But, like, I've had a freaking cough for, like, 2 months. This is ridiculous. Either way. Lost where I was trying... Okay, let's just listen to what he's saying. Jeez, this is just gonna get stupid.
Good idea to spend a little time with the man himself, to allow him a victory lap, a well-deserved victory lap, but also to probe a little bit on how did you see things that nobody else did. So we are honored, truly, to have former Congressman Ron Paul in studio now. Dr. Paul, thank you.
Holy shit! Yo! He got Ron Paul in the studio, homie. Let's fucking go.
Thank you very much.
Tucker, great to be with you.
So I've spoken for you.
I am very humbly asking if
Oh.
you could chip in 5, 10, or even $25.
Gotta fucking delete
I
this
know
shit.
Just a moment ago, but let me just ask you directly: how in 2014 did you see what so many others, including me, did not? That this was a very big deal, what was happening in Ukraine, and that it might end very badly for us.
Sometimes the people who are running the operation gives you an idea, like Victoria Nuland,
Yes.
and Jeffrey Pyatt. You think, what are those people doing? But they're such an example of bipartisanship.
Yes.
They can work with both of them, and they're the worst kind of warmonger. But all you have to do is, you don't have to know all the details. I try to be very cautious.
This is actually kind of sad, though, because, like, Ron Paul's, like, an old dude now, and he's been a principled libertarian, like, pretty much his whole career. I disagree with him on a lot of policy and a lot of, like, the value and and worldviews that he has, but I do respect Ron Paul because he's not, like, he doesn't legitimately come off to me as, like, a hateful dude that is pretending to be a libertarian. Like, he legitimately believes that shit. I mean, he's wrong. It's a bad worldview, but it's respectable because, he doesn't want fascism. And it's kind of sad because, like, Tucker is Comrade Tucker right now, okay? Sodruha Tucker. Sodruha Carlson. So it's kind of sad that he's here. I don't know, like, who told him that this was a good idea, or, like, hey, you should go on the Tucker, like, maybe, like, his grandsons with the fucking broccoli haircut is listening to Andrew Tate or whatever. Is like, oh, you should go to fucking Tucker Carlson. I don't know. So it's kind of sad. I hope Tucker. Not Tucker. I hope that Ron Paul pushes back when Tucker does dog whistles, but we'll see.
Especially in economics. Well, I was just this and this, and next month there's going to be such and such happen. In Austrian economics, we're taught that you don't know exactly when things are happening, but you can see things coming. It's the same way. You might be able to see our foreign policy coming if you want to go back and observe what happened at the beginning of the last century.
Yes.
With the progressive movement. So the hints are there. I think I think what has helped me over the years is I'm curious.
Don't join TuckerCarlson.com to watch the full interview. Don't encourage him. Okay.
Most people are, but a lot of people aren't that curious.
Yes.
I want to know why it happened, because still the question I have, recent things happen. I said, who's going to benefit? Who benefits from these bombs being dropped? Who benefits? So I'm very curious, and then I don't.
Okay, fair point. Like, the military-industrial complex is a bad thing, and they are going to make tons of money from any conflict. So, like, that is a fair point. However, Putin fucking invaded Ukraine. Like, yeah, war is bad, homie, but they are literally defending themselves. Like, you can't be like, war is bad while you're getting bombed. Like, you're sitting there getting bombed by Russia, and you have an American just like sitting in an armchair telling you, like, well, you know that war is bad. It's like, yeah, we're getting bombed, bro. It's like, oh yeah, but war, how bad is that? It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, shut up. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Like, yeah, I agree with you. And like, Boeing and fucking all these other military companies, military contractors are gonna make a fucking killing off of it. But supporting Ukraine is objectively and morally the correct thing to do. Like, and it just happens to align with the interests of megacorporations. If it didn't align with the interests of megacorporations, they wouldn't support it. Perfect example, Palestine. Do you see giant corporations supporting Palestine or asking for a ceasefire there, even though Israel is the aggressor? No, because those interests don't align. See, we have our military contractors benefit from supporting Israel in that conflict. So, like, literally the exact same conflict, a country invades another country, I would say almost, well, not dictatorial, because they did elect Bibi, right? But like an authoritarian country attacks another country and it tries to claim its territory. Like, same exact situation, yet somehow we're on the moral wrong side there. So how does that happen? Well, because the interests for the mega corporations don't align with freeing Palestine, but they do align with freeing Ukraine. So that's it. It's actually really simple, right? Yeah, we should probably try to avoid bloodshed, do ceasefires in both situations. Like, seriously, just get everybody from Israel, Palestine, Ukraine, and Russia to do ceasefires and work it out without killing any more people. Like, soldiers on both sides are still human beings on all sides, right? Like, they're human beings and they're dying in mass. And, like, they don't have to, because the leadership could just, like, stop being little bitches and talk to each other. That's it. Like, literally, these are super rich, wealthy people that are in control of their countries and would rather have the poorest of their society die than, just negotiate with other countries. That's it. That's the long end of it. So, yes, there is a good and decent argument to be made against war. However, you cannot just say war is bad. So, I don't think Ron Paul is going to say that, but I think that Tucker is going to try to lead into that. Because as we know, Tucker went to a Russian grocery store, and that was it. Like, done. Like, he was instantly joined the KGB. He is literally a Kremlin agent right now. He is like, if it wasn't for the fact that he has his own show, he would probably be on Russia today. That's how that works. He tried the bread and was like, "Opa!" this. Tucker tried the Russian bread and was like, "Opa, this is so good." I reject all of Western imperialism and accept Soviet imperialism, and that's Tucker now.
To know everything, because I think that timing and elements and all this, but I'm always impressed that there are people awakening. They wake up and they say, this whole thing about audit the Fed, that came out of a speech I gave at the University of Michigan, and that was early in the presidential thing, and it was the crowd, those college kids, and I worried because I'm going to a liberal campus, I don't know what they'll think of me, and they started saying, end the Fed, and they took out Federal Reserve notes, and they were burning Federal Reserve notes. So I figured, there's somebody's missing the boat, because these kids know a lot more than they're giving credit for. I've changed my mind.
I think it's across. It can be, what do you call it? It's very bipartisan of not liking the Fed, right? Because they do shit like fund the military-industrial complex instead of welfare. Like, if the Fed was, instead of printing billions and trillions of dollars and buying weapons to ship to other countries for war constantly, and then engaging us in warfare constantly to make money, if instead they printed that money and did like welfare and like food stamps and shit like that, things that actually benefit the poorest of society, even like if there was a program for rent, like rent control, like government housing, like if they had more of those programs going on instead of just like a Section 8 housing area in a city that's not well maintained and underfunded. Instead, if they printed money to fund that, people on the left would not have a problem with it. But the thing is, they don't fucking do that. They don't fucking do that. They literally just print money for war. So everybody is pretty much on board with saying that they need to get the fuck out of power, right? Like, because they're not doing anything particularly beneficial for anybody. They are doing they are explicitly warmongers. Yeah. So.
Totally and completely, because there are a lot of bad examples in college. There's a lot of junk going out there.
Yes.
A lot of bad professors. Did you know that?
I've heard that. Yes.
A lot of bad professors. So I'm very impressed.
Example. Can I have a crumb of source, please? You can't just say there's plenty. Yeah. Well, you know what? You're right. But I think it's like in Canada. Right? I think the bad professors are in Canada. You're right. You have like Brett Weinstein. Isn't he Canadian? And Jordan Peterson. Yeah, so you're right. There are some pretty bad professors out there. I just gave you 2 examples. Give me some more, huh? All right.
Young people have a more open mind, and sometimes with a blanket accusation, which I should be cautious with, I'd much rather talk to young people who are curious than the people who belong to the Chamber of Commerce.
I agree with you.
Because the Chamber of Commerce people symbolizes the lobby.
Of course they do. And they have economic interests that prevent them from thinking honestly. I had that experience. I was just saying off air at one of your speeches probably 20 years ago. You'd never seen me speak before, and you went off about the Federal Reserve. And I remember thinking, what an esoteric subject. I knew nothing about it. I thought only crazy people cared. But again, I was completely ignorant about monetary policy at the time. And I was shocked by how much the crowd loved it.
He was shook. Yeah, I mean, this is not that much of a, how would I say? This is not like a right-wing thing. Like, they're gonna, well, Tucker's gonna try and spin it to be right-wing. This is like a playbook for fascists, right? They use left-wing talking points where you have actual solutions on the left, but instead of like pointing out that, hey, like, worker ownership of factories and not creating money to create weapons and go engage in wars, and instead use that for like domestic what was the infrastructure? Sorry. So it was like, if you use that for domestic infrastructure and stuff like that, those are real solutions, right? But instead what fascists do is they say, hey, these are the things. They point out the same problems, and then instead of like having a good solution, they jump over and start going, and therefore immigrants are the problem. And if you were following along with them and you weren't like, if you don't pay attention to politics very much, or if you're not educating yourself very much on what's going on or what the actual issues are, what the core issues are, what ends up happening is you get, for the most part, politically incoherent voters, politically incoherent people that aren't actually fascists, but will end up agreeing with fascist rhetoric, because the fascists will literally say the same thing that like a leftist will, up to a point, and then give you like the wrong solution, give you like the worst possible fucking solution that you could come up with, right? It's like if you're doing a math formula and it's like, it's literally the left and the right, a leftist and a fascist will say, yeah, they'll write the formula down. They'll just be like 2 times 2, and they're both the same. equals, and then a leftist will say 4, and then fascists will say you need to like put people in concentration camps. That's how that works. And if you're politically incoherent, you understand like the first part, like you'll understand like the formula. It makes sense. It's following logical pattern. And when they throw that left field shit at you, you're like, I don't really understand, but like, he seems like he knows what he's talking about. And they end up voting for this, right? For the most part, the vast majority of this country are not hateful people, but they get fooled into voting for the hateful people. Like, do you ever do Hogwatch? Like, you ever watch, like, what's his name? Hassan. He does Hogwatch, right? Like, those people are genuinely, for the most part, like, nice people, but they're just not very smart. They're not really paying attention to like the core issues. So like there's instances where the guy will be like, yeah, there was one recent one where there was a guy who was like, hey, I'll pray for you. I care about like women's rights and everything. And he was like a genuinely nice guy, but he was in a protest against pro-life. It was a pro-life protest. Yeah, he was in a pro-life protest where there was other people being dicks to women that were trying to get an abortion. It's like there are bad people in there. There are bad faith actors, but there are also just people that didn't really think shit through and think that they're doing the right thing for like genuine reasons. Like if you view Republicans like the people, like if you view the voters as evil, you've already lost. You've lost the fucking plot. They're not, right? They're just normal people, and they've been convinced to vote for like shitty things, and they don't really think about what the consequences of those shitty things are, right? But yeah, anyway, moving on.
They were completely tuned in. They thought it was really important. Why would the average person 20 years ago have a better sense of that than, say, me, who was paid to follow the subject, but wasn't? How did people know?
I got it from literature. You could read about it. We didn't
Yes.
have an internet. We didn't have the radio or TV giving us good information. But it was out there.
Back in my day, we didn't have no internet. Fuck, I love Ron Paul. I can't really like make fun of him or be too mean about him. Like I'll make fun of Tucker all day because Tucker is a piece of shit. But Ron Paul's just like a sweet old man who genuinely believes libertarianism, and there is a difference between libertarianism and like the neo-fascism and like the neoconservatism that you see nowadays. Like there really is an ideological difference. Okay. They're still like not gonna do good. Like at the end of the day, they're gonna do bad. The institution of libertarian policies will affect the country negatively. However, I think for the most part, libertarians genuinely are like nice people that haven't really thought it through that much. That's all.
Here.
He thought it through. He's convinced himself.
The one group that helped me a whole lot was Leonard Reed, the Foundation for Economic Education.
Yes.
I knew him, and he was a true believer. He was a dignified person and very likable, and he talked about process, how you reach people. And but he was very, very libertarian in his own way, but he was sort of an intellectual, and he influenced me a lot. So I read everything he did, and he did a lot of literature. But the follow-up of that was, of course, the Mises Institute,
Yes.
And I was part of that.
I never thought as a pediatrician that I would be at all useful in a war. My name is Seema Jalani. I recently entered Gaza and worked at Al-Aqsa Hospital during my time.
We're gonna skip this, but yeah, you should go donate to Gaza relief funds.
And I think, I think they're important people. I know people on TV are really important.
Oh, so important.
So important, but there are a lot of people that are important. I think the ideas are the most important, and they come and go, and but the ideas make all the difference in the world. I mean, I look at the need for the ideas on how our country came about. You know, Thomas Jefferson and others that knew exactly what they were talking about. But we don't have many Thomas Jefferson's around anymore. So, but there's more people. There are influence there, but there are more. But the underground, the silent majority, the remnant.
Okay. Let's. Here's the thing. He has a worldview, and it's kind of problematic. Let's look up Thomas Jefferson real quick. It's one of the founding fathers. Third president of the United States. Not what I wanted to show. Slavery. Yeah, he owned slaves. That's, yeah. Yeah, his, there we go. That's what his attitude was. He thought it would be as brutal as the Haitian Revolution. So he was problematic in his own right. Right? Like, you gotta understand, like, the foundation of this country, like, the people that we view as the founding fathers and, like, the first couple presidents, like, yeah, they were good for, like, creating the country, but you understand that, like, this country was built on, like, mass graves, right? So these aren't people that you should ever use to quote for morality. You should never follow the founding fathers when it comes to, like, what would they do in a moral situation? It's, like, I understand that, like, people grew up in an education system where it wasn't really talked about, so they, like, heroized, would that be the word? Or, like, immortalized. They, like, view people, they eliminate the bad parts of their personalities and they focus on, like, the good stuff they did, like help found the country and all that shit. But the reality of it is you can't view history from a, how would I say, nationalist lens, because it doesn't actually give you the full view of history. And Thomas Jefferson was incredibly fucking problematic. So using him as any type of moral or ethical guideline is not something that you should do. And unfortunately, libertarians don't really understand that, and they don't agree with me when I say that, and they think, no, we can separate the bad from the good. However, you shouldn't do that. Because slavery was bad then, it's bad now, it's always been bad. There's never been a point in time when somebody was like, slavery, that's like ethically okay. Like, no, you can't just grant that to people because they were in the past. I'm sorry. Like, just because you were in the past doesn't change the fact that was an objectively, and always has been an objectively, unethical and bad thing to do. So Thomas Jefferson having the attitude of, definitely don't free the slaves because they'll be violent, like in the Haitian Revolution, which, by the way, Haitian Revolution fucking based, okay? The Haitian Revolution was fucking based. One of the coolest things about it is, and I remember Zizek, Slavoj Zizek even talking about it, that in the foundation of the Haitian country is that the Haiti is a black nation and all of its citizens are considered black, right? So it didn't say based on color, because there was a large contingent of Polish soldiers that when Napoleon sent them over were like, oh, the French are objectively the bad people, and they switched sides, and they helped in the Haitian Revolution. So when Haiti created its constitution, it recognized, like, the Polish soldiers that some of them wanted to stay there, and other Polish residents that they were there, they were like, no, these people are chill, like, and they are now black, right? So they did it the smart way, they did it the good way. They were like, yeah, we are a black nation, and every one of our citizens is black, and they didn't define it by skin color, and that is fucking based, all right? So, yeah.
I believe in the remnant both in a philosophic and a religious sense. When things deteriorate, there's always somebody there that's going to gather together, 10, 12, 15, 200, or 500. They gather together and they talk about the real things that are important. And the remnant I think is much bigger than anybody ever realized. And I think when I walked into those stadiums, I don't know how many times I would say, where did these people come from? I was totally amazed.
I thought the same thing.
Because, I remember my goal was never to be in politics. I had no desire to be in politics, but I wanted to use politics to spread a message of personal liberty.
Yes.
And that was my goal. So that.
And you see, and that's where the disconnect is with between the libertarians and the left in America. Anyway, the right-wing libertarians like Ron Paul. Ron Paul, I would say, is not as far right as most libertarians in the West that I would still consider genuine libertarians. But the focal point of libertarians in the United States is the personal liberty thing, right? So, the difference between libertarians and everywhere else in the world and in America is that the personal liberty, where it's like, hey, everybody is their own little fiefdom, that's how we want you to have positive rights, I believe it is, or is it negative rights? I always get the two confused, right? The rights are that, like, nobody can force you to do anything, but they don't like the rights of, well, you are entitled to health care or the excess wealth generated by the nation that you live in to provide for you for housing. They don't like that. They don't like that at all. Not libertarians in America. So if you're watching this and you're not from America or Canada, I think they have a similar libertarians there. American libertarians are all for liberties, positive liberties, where nobody can infringe upon you that you have to do something, or like, by the barrel of a gun that you have to work or something like that. But they are 100% against, like violently against, that communities taking care of each other, like the excess wealth produced in a community going towards providing for the poorest of that community that can provide for themselves. They do not like that at all. They're like, oh yeah, leave that up to charities and church and stuff like that, right? And the problem with that is charities and church and stuff, they will help the poor. Like, churches historically have helped the poor. However, they do it conditionally, and they do it under the pretext that they're doing it for their God and stuff. And if you have wealth and you have taxes in a nation, you shouldn't rely on the moral, I would say, goodness and moral conviction of somebody who's religious or in a charity or even in a secular charity to take care of your poorest. You shouldn't do that. You should have taxes to actually do that because you can, because that is the purpose of government. The purpose of government is domestic infrastructure and welfare, taking care of housing, even providing food. I think those are things that the government should be taking care of, especially at least if we are still in a capitalist system, at the very least for the poorest in our society that cannot take care of that for themselves, right?
That was the whole reason that I got involved, and evidently there were other people looking for the same thing, and I was impressed with how many people there were, and I got to the point where I thought young people basically were being ridiculed and made fun of, and they still get it, and some of them deserve it. But they're still young people, very good and intellectual, and they, even back, it's been a while since I was a kid.
I have a thing going on, and I don't know if this is going to show up in the recording. Like the top bar of the recording, like right here, it just keeps like flickering. So, and I don't know how to fix that, because I am not good with video editing or OBS in general. I'm still learning this stuff. So, I'm just going to put a pink bar there for all my videos moving forward, and I guess I'll like put my logo once I get one on there eventually, and we'll just move on from there. So yeah, moving on.
When I would mention the remnant, they knew exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah.
People who gather together for ideological reason, and it's no, it's nobody looking for, to be a good lobbyist and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And Washington is so bad that somebody said, "What? How did you ever survive it?" I said, "Well." I said that I never became an optimist. I never said, I'm going to cure the world. I thought the ideas were important, and that's what I wanted to do because I was very selfish, because I thought it made me feel better talking about something I believed in.
Yes.
And then when I saw some kids at Berkeley and other schools getting up and saying, and the Fed, well, liberty is not dead at all. I think it just gets reignited, and I think we're in the early phases of that. But
Yeah. So again, slightly bipartisan. And again, there's going to be a break-off point from the left and the right, or libertarians and leftists, when it comes to ending the Fed, right? And that break-off point is going to be once the Fed has been ended and there is no institution of actual welfare programs and housing or food allocations for anybody, especially not even the poorest people in the country. Then that's where the breakaway is going to happen, because it is a much bigger issue to stop bombing people. Objectively, everybody doesn't like bombing people unless you're like a psychopath. And there are psychopaths in the world, in this country, right, who legitimately love the idea of us just bombing the shit out of poor nations. However, for the most part, if you're not like an uber fascist and you're just like a libertarian and you're a leftist, and even Republicans, some of them, like even especially liberals, everybody's on board with not murdering as much brown people as possible, right? I would like to think that. However, once you get into power, once there's people that are in power, the interests align with corporations to make as much money as possible are to bomb as much brown people in poor nations as possible. So they do that, and they line their pockets with it. So, like, ending the Fed, ending lobbying is one thing that's like a bipartisan issue that I think most people could get along. Corporate lobbying, at least, right? If we can end corporate lobbying, I think that's something that libertarians and leftists can actually agree on, because corporate lobbying is like one of the major factors that's pushing for constant war, that we are in the forever war, right? So, anyway, but beyond that, there is a massive disconnect from progressive politics and libertarian politics. Like, once you do that, you still have to take care of domestic infrastructure, right? And libertarians go, nope. And that's where you're going to have the separation.
I also believe we have to go through a rough tumble time, because the price always has to be paid. The price, in the sense, how do you liquidate the debt? We can't walk away from that debt.
Okay, so he's actually just wrong here. This is why I said, like, and there's things that I obviously, and a lot of them, disagree with him because he is a libertarian. You can't walk away from the debt. Yes, you can, actually. There you go. You can just print all the money that you want, because we control the world. The United States controls the world's economy, right? Like, the US dollar is the base currency that all other currencies are based off of. So yes, you can actually walk away from debt. And most of the debt is to, like, its own citizens, right? Like, the vast majority, like the trillions of dollars of debt that the United States is in debt to, is like its own citizens. It's like Social Security is like a massive thing that we are in debt to. So when people talk about like the debt ceiling, we need to raise it, it's like, just do that. Just make it indefinite. It's not going to negatively affect us, right? Unless we become not the dominant superpower in the world, which thanks to the fact that we have the CIA and Pentagon, and as powerful as they are, that's not going to happen, right? If we stopped all investment in military technology, it would take like 30 to 40 years before the world could even catch up. If we just, like, literally $0, we just did nothing, right? And we would still just beat the shit out of the entire world combined militarily if we really wanted to. So, like, we're not going anywhere, right? So it's when libertarians say that, like, we can't walk away from this debt, it's like, it's not the same like regular debt, like me or you. Like if I owe like a couple grand on a credit card, like, yeah, I can't walk away from that. But like, the U.S. government prints its own money. It can just print out of the debt and just say, it could just say it's not there anymore, right? It could just refund Social Security, right? And what's going to happen about the debt that we owe to other countries, which is like a fraction of the debt that we actually owe? Well, those countries are heavily involved with business with us, so it doesn't matter. Like, if we never pay them back, what happened? Do you think that if we don't pay back our debt to China, which is actually super minor, that they're going to, like, stop doing business with us? They depend on us for their entire economy. They depend on the U.S. dollar for the economy. So it's just not true. We can just, we can actually just walk away from it, because it's not the same thing as, like, personal debt. It's just not.
Well, how do we liquidate the debt?
The market will liquidate it. And the way the market...
All right, we will be back. All right, I'm gonna end this here and get back. I got some stuff I got to deal with.